Hey, book lovers, book readers, book friends. Welcome to Read This Book. I am your book hostess, LaShonda, bringing you this week's book review of Them Boys by Alexandria House. This is actually a series. It is a series of three books based on three brothers, Set, Jah, and Shu. I know you're probably saying, what language is she speaking? Did she just curse me? What is happening here? But those are the actual names of the brothers, and I love it. You know, I love characters with interesting names. So right out the gate, I was like, yes, let me read it. But let me back up and tell you how I discovered this series. I'm in a number of reading groups on Facebook. Shout out to all of y'all. And they had posted something about best series that they read. It was something to that effect. In Alexandria House, literally every other person commented, Alexandria House, you got to read about Set. You got to read about Jah. And I was like, well, okay, I guess I should read about them. And I am so glad that I did. Holy smokes, Batman. Alexandria House has taken what essentially could have been one whole novel and has given you three different insights into three different very complex men. Yeah, this is an excellent series. The first one is about Set. So Set, Jah, and Shu, they are brothers. They are well known as troublemakers, as fighters, as those Mitchell boys. Yeah, there's something else. So the first book is about Set. It's about Set and Karima. They meet at a class reunion and get to talking, about things, and she finds out that he's not as bad as the rumors made him to be. He's also fine as hell. And so they're conversating and basically was like, well, let's blow this joint. And she was like, oh, okay. And they go and have some drinks, and then they got it popping. Okay, set it off. The story progresses where it was supposed to be a one-night stand that turned into a weekend hookup that turned into this 3-year affair that they had going on. And what I found interesting is that they were both adults. So this is not young couples, young people. They're in their 40s, and how both of them were too afraid to admit what they wanted from each other. Like, okay, the hookups was great, but I'm really feeling you. Let's take that next step. They were both kind of hesitant to say what they wanted because they both came into this thing of like, okay, this is just fun. This is what it is. I'm not looking for a relationship or anything like that. But okay. What I loved about the story, what I loved about Set is that he was very blunt. He was very upfront about who he is. He was very upfront with his feelings about her, in the respect that he only wanted to be with her. He was afraid to tell her how he felt because as you read these stories, you find out that they have a very traumatic childhood, and it has really shaped who they are as men. And so you get through that and you're working through them. Karima has a baby daddy to her grown ass daughter, who's a high flaming mess. And so she's dealing with different things, but they still come together and gravitate together, and they have such a beautiful thing that's building, but they're scared. So I loved the vulnerability that he showed. I loved the one of him being scared and having this really traumatic childhood that really messes with him even as an adult today, and being vulnerable to share that with her and wanting to take things to the next level. Now, I will tell you my favorite part about this story. Karima is on the phone talking to him. They live in different states, by the way. So she's on the phone talking to him, and her baby daddy, ex-husband, whatever, comes in, and he's like really aggressive and yelling at her. And, she like totally forgets that Set's on the phone and, whatever. Kid you not. Homeboy got on a plane, He landed in her city, found her ex-husband, and commenced to put ooey knots upside his head. I was like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. You don't mess with his woman. And I was like, girl, that's what you should have known by then, that he was the one, that he was crazy for you. Just give it up, okay? Give it up. So their story, again, is the vulnerability is what I'll take from it. It was very well written. It was a super quick read, like less than 2 hours. And I was like, okay, I want more. I want more. I want to know more about, you know, the background, more about the father. What did he do? And you kind of get pieces of that, but she lets that curiosity kind of build. So I was like, well, okay, I'm down for one. I might as well be down for the other. So book 2 is about Jah. Oh, okay. Let me tell you the name Set. It's based off of an Egyptian god, and I'm not going to mess it up. It is the god of chaos, fire, trickery, storms, envy, disorder, and violence. That's what his name was, based off an Egyptian god. Okay, then. So book 2 is Jah. Jah Rastafari. If you Rastafarian or Jamaican, they know Jah is God. So he was the God. This is the story about Jah and Trisha. Trisha is best friends with Karima, and she ends up meeting Jah because she had to drop Karima off at her home one night because something happened to her car, and then Jah came over to make sure everything was okay, to get her where she needs to be, get her situated with another car and whatever, because Set wasn't having that. And so Karima takes Jah home, and they're kind of adversaries. She's kind of like, whatever, you know, kick rocks, you big giant, you know, they're kind of, but not like, okay, we gonna come to blows. It was just kind of like, eh. And I'm like, okay. So I found it interesting that in reading their story, that they were actually messing around. Karima and Jah had hooked up. And it was an ongoing affair that no one knew about because Trisha had a man. But as you read this story, you find out that Trisha's man was no good. He wasn't sugar honey iced tea. You know, he was messing around with multiple women. You know, she was basically like the kept woman. And then he had all his, as he lovingly referred to them, as his other hoes. And she's not happy. And she's realizing that, and she's wanting to make some changes and do something different with her life because she's been dependent upon this man to take care of her for however many years it was in this relationship. And so you get that, but then it's like, but wait, okay, I didn't know y'all was kicking it like that. And so as you explore more of their story, you get to the point where Trisha is really trying to figure out her life, and so she goes to visit Karima, and then lo and behold, Josh shows up, and then of course nothing gets past Set. Set was like, oh, so y'all two messing around? And she's like, I don't know how to explain it. But you know, then this comes out where they're starting to talk now, like, hey, what do you want? You know, what do you want to do? And he was feeling her, but he also knew that she had a man. So he wanted her to make that decision to either, I'm gonna be the side piece, or what you gonna do, because I know how I feel about you. Trisha's man finds out that she's seeing somebody but did not know that it was him, and turned out that her man and John knew each other very well. So yeah, that did not go over very well at all. Nope. But yeah, again, it's another crafty written story. Again, another quick read, and I'm not going to tell you what happens because you need to read it for yourself, because there is some funny stuff in there, and then there's also, again, you get more of the backstory of how their father was very abusive towards them and how it affects each brother similarly but different. I found that very, very interesting because in true nature, we all like cope with things in different ways. So it was very interesting how they relayed that trauma. The The third book is Shu. And his cover is by far my favorite cover. Like, all three covers of the books are just sexy. They are beautiful, black and white, beautiful. But his cover was just extra sexy. It was yummy. I just stared at the cover before I read the book. Don't judge me. Don't judge me, because I know some of y'all look at covers too and just be like, damn. I know. So Shu, his name is the god of peace, lions, air, and wind, which I found very ironic, because out of all the brothers, Shu was the quietest. He was the one, he just kept to himself. He didn't really raise the alarms about anything. He was very quiet and described as very soft-spoken, even though he was, as tall and physically fit as his brothers. So book 3 picks up, it's the story of Shu and Denver. Very interesting that the female name was Denver. She was a CNA at the nursing home where their father is, because he is slowly dying. And so she is the CNA that kind of comes in and takes care of him. And every time that she would go into, their dad's room, she was there, because he would sit up kind of as a vigil and stay with his father during the night. And so as they get kind of further along, they start talking to each other, and, he's like digging her. He's feeling some type of way for her. Denver is a hot flaming mess. She has a lot of family issues. A lot of things has happened to her in her lifespan. She's 25. He's 41. So, hey, okay. Robbing the cradle a little bit, but hey, to each his own. So, she's starting to find out, he's a gentle giant, and he's really liking her. So they go out, and then one thing leads to another. They got it popping, and next thing you know, he was like, just go ahead and move to my house. She was like, oh, okay. I was like, well, damn. Okay. So their story is progressing, and it's more along of how do two broken people fix each other. What I loved about this story is that, yeah, both him and Denver, they were very broken. He had a very abusive father. She had a situation with her mother and her stepfather that ended in a tragedy. And so how she puts herself back together, but she recognized, and they recognized that brokenness in them, and they just gravitate towards each other, and they're a perfect fit. And he's very much of, he wants to take care of her. He wants to give her all the things that she never got, that she deserved. And I was just like, oh, okay. He loves her, and that's his way of showing it. He's a protector, but he's also deadly. She might be quiet, but it's the quiet ones that end up being the serial killers. Not saying that he's a serial killer, but let's just say he can get some things handled for you if you need them handled. Shu can. Yeah, he handled some things. Again, another quick read, another very well written story about them, about all three brothers. And in this book, you kind of get a little bit of a conclusion or a closure with their father. The mother, I wanted to throat punch her, because where the father was very abusive to them, and I do mean abusive, he treated her like a queen, but she never stood up for her sons. She never, she never tried to protect them from him. She just let him do all this shit to them. And I was like, wow. So some things happen in book 3 where the brothers have to come and finally get some peace and get some closure with everything. And so that's what I liked. She didn't go into all of this big backstory with the father and what happened to him or why he did this or yada yada. Because I felt like had she done that, it really would have overshadowed the story of the boys, the story of the brothers, and the men that they are now, and how They were really just looking for that companion, that person that understood, that could calm the beast, that could, love and support them, just love them for who they are. And they found that in these women, and they found that peace and that strength to finally get closure that they needed. So it was very subtle. It was very well written. And as you read through, you see where she's weaving it, together. But you have to get it for yourself, type of situation. But well done, Alexandra House. Well done. This is a series that you will enjoy reading. Again, they're very short stories, like less than 2 hours to read, but they are well worth your time. So until next time, read a good book.